Listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.
Congratulations to Mr. Ortiz. And the people that didn't get in, we're talking about Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, who are two of the, regardless of how you feel about whether or not they did performance-enhancing drugs or whatever, two of the most dominant in the game ever in the history of baseball. And they are not going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame by the Sports Baseball Writers of America, Association of America. We'll change our format a little bit about this. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go first, and I'm just gonna go with. I wanted to make sure I wrote down a coherent thought so that I wouldn't go on one of my tangents and start screaming and yelling like a freaking crazy person. So I wrote
Nick,
down.
I will say you have to say at least at the end one last thing whenever.
No, I wrote it down very clearly. Like I got a lot to talk about. But like a lot of bullet points. All right. So the first thing is I just want to say I am extremely disappointed with the voting system. I don't believe that the Baseball Writers Association of America has the integrity or the courage to do what the people want, because ultimately that's what is supposed to be done. The game should reflect the time and the people. And from what I've seen throughout social media, everybody thinks that Bonds and Clemens should be in. I've seen current players from Anthony Rizzo to Marcus Stroman. I mean, they got me agreeing with fucking Marcus Stroman, for Christ's sake. I just feel dirty. I agreed with Marcus Stroman, Ben Verlander, and fucking what's Costello's first name from the Post? That guy. I agreed with Brian Costello. I agreed with all three of them in the last 48 hours. I feel dirty. I feel like I shouldn't be out in public right now because I agreed with you. I can't stand those guys. I just want to point that out. Ben Verlander and Marcus Stroman are two pieces of shit. All right. But I'm sitting there and I'm looking at even Anthony Rizzo, who's a stand-up guy throughout baseball. I don't think there's anybody in baseball that has anything negative to say about Anthony Rizzo. Even he was just like, I can't believe Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens aren't in the Hall of Fame. And in my head, all I could think was he better be careful because the writers will keep him out when it's his turn because he went against them. Because that's seemingly what they do. And I just want to throw some numbers at you guys. And these numbers are significant for one very important reason, right? So 99.74, 99.32, 99.84, 98.79, 98.53, 95.13, 91.07, 93.38. Those are the percentages of personnel that voted that said the following players belong in the Hall of Fame. That's Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, Cal Ripken Jr., Babe Ruth, Pedro Martinez, and Ted Williams. So that number sounds really high, right? I want to meet the assholes that decided that one of any of those guys, he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, so I'm not going to vote for him. And that just should just tell you everything you need to know about writers electing anybody into any Hall of Fame that's not a writing Hall of Fame. All right? I really would love to meet the asshole that was sitting there going, Babe Ruth doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Like, I really do. Like I just so I could slap him really hard. Like, as hard as into a coma, that his ancestors would feel it and go, wow, my progeny is fucking stupid. That hurt. Just who's sitting there going, Ted Williams, fuck that guy. He batted 400 and fought for his country in World War II. Nah, fuck him. Doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Like, who was that guy? But there's reporters that do that. There's somebody that walked out there and said, I'm not voting for Derek Jeter because I don't want him to have 100%. That is literally what we are dealing with these fucking asshole reporters. I just want to point out, I hate reporters. Reporters and politicians are number 1 and 2. And you can flip them back and forth as worst human beings that our country has to offer. All right. Now, one would argue, well, what about the rapists and molesters and all that? Well, obviously, I think everybody collectively can sit there and say they're not good people. But reporters and politicians masquerade like they are good people, and they're not. They're scum. They literally feed on the tragedy of the world. Okay. All right. That being said, steroids saved baseball after the strike. That's why they're keeping Bonds and Clemens out, allegedly. That's what they're saying. All right. However, David Ortiz failed a drug test. He failed a drug test. He took steroids. All right. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. He was mediocre to bad on the Minnesota Twins. He gets to the Red Sox with Manny Ramirez, starts taking juice, and all of a sudden he can hit like magic. All right. Mind you, Minnesota wasn't a bad place to hit. So how do you go from hitting in Minnesota, the Homer Dome, to Fenway, which has one of the bigger right field areas in baseball, and all of a sudden you can hit better? That would be like you being left-handed going from Yankee Stadium to Citi Field, and all of a sudden you can crank out homers. It's just absolutely madness, all right? And the problem that I have is that steroids saved baseball after the 94 strike, and it made money for the players, for the owners, for the media outlets, and for the reporters. And then when everything went south, the media outlets and the reporters continued to make money off of articles that they were writing about the guys that already made them money. And now they're the same media outlets and the same reporters are saying, hey, remember all those millions you made me? Fuck you. You're not getting into the Hall of Fame. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then again, of course, Bonds and Clemens never failed drug tests. Their accusations were based on people that were going to jail for selling drugs. I just want to point that out, that the guys that were testifying in Balco and Radimsky or whatever his name is, they were going to jail. And the government was like, so tell us who you sold it to. I guarantee you they told them, oh, I sold it for my mom, my dad, my grandma, Barry Bonds, Mickey Mantle. I'm not going to jail now, right? We're really going to take the words of criminals over people who have never been in trouble before? It's not like in the mafia where one gangster, rats out another gangster. This is like a criminal who's going to go to jail talking about a regular guy that probably never got a speeding ticket in his life. And we're taking his word as the gospel truth because, of course, he's led his life up to that point, telling the truth and doing the right thing. That's why he was under arrest for being a criminal, right? And then, of course, A-Rod didn't make it in his first ballot. He failed the same amount of drug tests as David Ortiz. Matter of fact, they failed the same drug test together. You know what the difference was? Is that when A-Rod got caught, he came out and said, hey, guys, I'm sorry, I did it. It was me. And when Ortiz came out, he goes, this is our fucking city. Remember that? And they were like, oh, yeah, that was that guy. Cool. And they did nothing with it. He said that the New York Times lied about him because he played for Boston. Like the New York Times gives a fuck about baseball. Absolutely ridiculous. As far as David Ortiz goes as a player, he's a DH. The reason that there aren't that many DHs in the Hall of Fame is because nobody else played DH for their whole fucking career. Everybody else, like DH was for like Mike Piazza would have been a DH in the AL, where you play catcher for 12 years. You're on your last legs. You can't catch anymore. So you're going to play the last 2 or 3 years at DH just because you can still bat, but you suck in the field. And then you're going to go off into the sunset. Like so many DHs before, right? I mean, in the 90s, when the Yankees had guys like Cecil Fielder, he played first base, but obviously at that point in his career, he wasn't limber enough to do the job. So he was the DH for the last 2-3 years of his career. Makes sense. And then David Ortiz comes out with his fat ass self at 28 years old, and he became like the first 28-year-old to decide to play 13 years at DH, if you really want to call it playing. So I don't have much respect for that just because I'm not saying it's not hard to hit. I'm just saying it's not hard to improve your defense if you give a fuck. He didn't. And to me, that says a lot about a person in general. And we're talking about people taking performance-enhancing drugs. Guys in the 60s and 70s took amphetamine all the time to give them an extra boost. I saw somebody on Twitter today say, oh, it was because they took them when they were in World War II and they got hooked on them and they kept doing it. It didn't make them better players. It just gave them more energy. If I'm tired today, right? If I'm tired today and I can't play today because I'm tired and I do some fucking crack and it lets me play today, that is literally enhancing my performance. Also, Mickey Mantle came out and said he took amphetamine. He didn't fight in World War II. So I don't know what the fuck that guy was talking about, but he was wrong. And he's full of shit. All right. And then ultimately, maybe the Hall of Fame needs to go away. You know, I always think of that clip from The Office when Michael asks Toby these outgoing questions. Who do you think you are? What gives you the right? And that's what I really think about the entire Baseball Writers Association of America. Is like, who do they think they are, and what gives them the right to decide who the best baseball players of all time are? The guys that got picked last in dodgeball are deciding who the best athletes are? Give me a fucking break. And then last but not least, my parting remark is they made a whole fucking movie about how the Hall of Fame is bullshit because sports writers are assholes. The movie's called Mr. 3000, R.I.P. Bernie Mac, and it's fucking amazing. And I'm out. Next.
All right. Well, I mean, to build on that, I agree with everything you're saying. Seeing that the one and only person voted in is David Ortiz, who played one side of the ball. And I'm not going to say his stats aren't good enough to get in the Hall of Fame, but I knew this was going to happen. How could you open up the floodgates to an accused steroid user and then keep everybody else out? If you're going to sit there and tell me if you're drafting a baseball team right now and you have a choice of Barry Bonds, David Ortiz, Roger Clemens, and Alex Rodriguez, you're taking David Ortiz first, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. End of story. I mean, the baseball writers voting people in, it's a joke. They have biases. They're proud of their biases. They like being the guy to say, yeah, I'm the one that didn't vote for Babe Ruth or fucking Ted Williams. They enjoy that. They enjoy that clout. And honestly, I think there should be some kind of system when you have somebody like that, like a Derek Jeter going in and somebody's not voting for him. I think there should be a panel saying, why? Why? What do you see that we don't see? What numbers isn't he, hitting? What boxes isn't he clicking? Oh, your reason is that no, you don't get a vote. You're fucking gone. You're gone. I mean, anywhere else in the world, if you're shit at your job, you get fired. Yet these guys get a vote and they're allowed to just shit on everything we hold dear. It's America's pastime, and they're treating it like it's their right to say, nah, fuck this guy. I don't care if he checks all the boxes. I don't care that his numbers are better than everybody else he played against, all his peers. I don't like him. Fuck him. He wasn't nice to me. I asked him a question as he was walking out to his car, and he didn't want to bother me, so fuck him now. It's a clown show. And an even bigger clown show is the fact that, like you said, steroids saved baseball. Everybody knew about it, including Bud Selig. Everybody in that locker room knew about it. The owners, the players. The players aren't going to dime each other out unless you're Jose Canseco looking for a fucking buck. I mean, the guy got knocked out on what's it called? That Barstool fight thing just to make a quick couple dollars. I mean, other than him being a complete piece of shit sellout, nobody else is diming each other out. I'm sure if you found a definitive list of everybody that ever took performance-enhancing drugs, the list would be massive. Massive. Okay? So, it's okay to make money for baseball. It's okay to save baseball after the lockout. It's okay to stack the owner's pockets nice and deep. It's okay that those guys are the reason why all these players are making big-time contracts now. Because if it wasn't for players like that, baseball might be dead right now. There might be 3 different leagues going right now claiming to be professional baseball. All right? The MLB was in the shit house, and the steroid era pulled them out and cleaned them off, and they were good to go. All right? And now you're going to look at somebody like Barry Bonds, who now can't get in the Hall of Fame unless he's voted in by, right. And I know what you said, but I can't hear you because Rook muted you. Offensive and childish. Let's just look real quick, just for fun. Barry Bonds is the most intentional walk player in MLB history. 688 intentional walks. And the guy is still the home run king, which means at least 1 at bat, if not most games 2 at bats. He's not swinging at a ball. He's not getting a chance to hit. Steroids makes him a better hitter. Steroid gets him to what? Magically, that one pitch he gets to swing at a game, put it out of the park? I don't think so. Okay. The next person to be intentionally walked, number 2 on that list, is Albert Pujols at 315. He almost 3 times them. More than doubled that. The guy got walked constantly. Okay. He was a 3-time Silver Slugger before he bulked up and purportedly did juice. And you're going to tell me that guy's not a Hall of Famer? Get the fuck out of here. You're going to sit there and tell me that A-Rod got less votes than Gary Sheffield. Show me somebody that would put Gary Sheffield on the team before A-Rod. I'd point and laugh at that person. It's a joke. Like I said, if you were keeping all the steroid guys out, that's fine. And anybody that had even an inkling of being on that list, okay, whether it is, I mean, generally there's no proof. With Ortiz, he failed the same drug test as Alex Rodriguez, but of course that was just thrown out. They don't count, except the fact that, you know, MLB had a problem with A-Rod. A-Rod tried to fight it, probably stupidly after admitting it, but we just are allowed to forget the David Ortiz incident, right? It's all well and good to pretend that the same drug test that A-Rod failed and we threw him to the gutter like he wasn't the greatest shortstop of our generation. That's okay. David Ortiz gets a fucking pass. It's comical. It really is. You opened up the floodgates by letting Ortiz in, and now you're going to sit there and say that no one else deserves it. Nobody else deserves the pass. Now Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds don't have their shot to get voted in by, you know, the baseball writers' votes. It's silly. It completely puts a black eye on baseball and Cooperstown. At this point, I'm done with Cooperstown. It's a joke. It's essentially a popularity contest. You made it that way. You made your bed, lie in it. It's sad. When you go to Cooperstown and you're reading people inducted in the Hall of Fame and fucking Bud Selig is there, but Barry Bonds isn't, yeah, that place can burn down for all I fucking care. It's pathetic. But I'm done. I'm tapping out. I'm sick of this fucking conversation. Everybody knows it's a joke. And to continue on with this way of voting players in, it's just going to continue to make the Hall of Fame absolutely meaningless. Enjoy.
I actually realized I shouldn't have muted Nick because he could have done a clap there for you. So, Nick, hit it. You're unmuted. There you go. That's what you need.
I agreed with what TJ said.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, listen, the entire time that you guys have been speaking, I've just been sitting here nodding my head because I'm in agreement with you guys. You know, like you guys, we all share the same sentiment right now. And I think my least favorite thing right now is I'm going to target about is the hypocrisy of the entire thing of the voting process. Starting with David Ortiz, I have nothing against David Ortiz being in the Hall of Fame. I just don't believe he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think people are like, well, what does it matter if he's going to get in the Hall of Fame eventually? Does it matter if it's first ballot? Does it matter if it's the 10th ballot? But it does matter because in the past, other players have had to wait their chance to get in because of one little hiccup. One example, guy who was a big DH, Edgar Martinez. He had to wait the full 10 years, his last year on the ballot, till he finally got in. Edgar Martinez doesn't have as many home runs as David Ortiz, and he doesn't have as many hits. David Ortiz did play 2 years longer than him. Obviously, the first couple of years for David Ortiz's career was not that great. And I think he only finished like 100, maybe 200 hits more than Edgar Martinez. So who's to say if Edgar Martinez has that 2 more years? They're probably close in hits. Anyway, Edgar Martinez was a career over 300 batter hitter, a batting average player at this point. Okay, so to compare them both, they're both DHs. I get that. But for Edgar Martinez to have to wait 10 years, because they always said, Baseball Writers America, that he's a DH. He didn't play both ways. He has to wait. He has to wait his turn. But David Ortiz, because he's friendly with the media and everyone loves him, he's like a media darling, he gets it on the first ballot. And I just don't get that. He was on the 2003 report. He was in the Mitchell report. People try to put doubt into that report and the test saying that there was issues with it or not everyone was named. But it doesn't matter. He was still named it. There was still an alleged abuse. There's an alleged abuse for Barry Bonds, an alleged abuse for Roger Clemens as well. So if the alleged abuse is there and you're going to start voting in alleged PED users, why do you start with David Ortiz? The numbers are not there. And one of the numbers we saw from this week, because we were talking about this all morning on Twitter. This is from PKels21 sent it to us, but it's actually originally from Kendall Baker on Twitter. David Ortiz's career OPB is 380 on base percentage. Barry Bonds' career on base percentage, if you turned all 762 of his home runs into outs, is 384. So if he did not hit 672 home runs and those were all out, he still has a better on base percentage than David Ortiz. Granted, he was so feared they always walked him, Obviously, that increases the on-base percentage, but it just shows the numbers are there to prove that Barry Bonds is obviously better than David Ortiz. And if we're going to go for PED users like David Ortiz or alleged PED users, then you have to start with some of the best. You have to start Barry Bonds and you have to start Roger Clemens. And now they're done. Now there's like precedent now. The writers are starting to say they're loosening their restrictions on the PED users, and they're going to start letting some of them in. But now Bonds and Clemens are done. They cannot get in, only throughout a veterans committee at this point. And then further hypocrisy is I respect, I think we had a writer on, I can't remember his name at this point, but we had the writer on our show with Joe Sokoa, and he's like, I'm not voting for any PED users. And I respect that, because if you're going to be across the board against PED users, that's fine. That's your right to vote that certain way. But if you're going to select and choose which PED users you're going to let in and which ones you aren't, that's when it becomes hypocritical. Look at, I mean, A-Rod's numbers are better than David Ortiz, and he played both ways, and he was arguably the best shortstop of our generation. Granted, he was suspended towards the end of his career, but he deserves more votes than this. And then towards Bill Evans. Yes, Bill Evans. Thank you, Nick. And then you also have the fact that, David Ortiz is getting because people like him. You also have Jeff Kent, who, I'm just looking up, he got 32% of the vote. Okay, 32% of the vote. He's on the ballot for 9 years. He has one more year left. All right. Jeff Kent was not the friendliest to the media. So because he's not friendly with them, he's not allowed in the hall. He's been waiting 9 years to get in. He is the best offensive player. Oh, yes, Nick, you're right. He got suspended for association with biogenesis, not for a failed test, though. Still, yes, correct. So back to Jeff Kent. Just because he treated the media like dickheads, like, which they are, because they're just as mean. They're just as mean as he was being to them. Some media members ask horrible questions. They beat you up in the papers, and then you're supposed to be friendly with them later on. And because he wasn't friendly with them, he's now waited 9 years. But he has people like Manish Mehta. Good point, Nick. He's waited 9 years to get in, and he's the best offensive player at his position in second base, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Like just right there, it's ridiculous. It's a travesty to baseball fans. And basically, the Baseball Writers of America just say, we have the votes. We don't give a shit what the fans think. And baseball right now is on life support. Okay, we have a lockout going on right now. Billionaires versus millionaires, and the Baseball Writers of America think to themselves, what better way to save this sport than to ignore some of the greatest players in our history? And you're pushing fans away. People like me, people will call it into the Fan today on WFAN and saying, like, we don't want to watch baseball anymore. People who I love baseball. I'm concerned I don't want to watch it anymore. And I love the Yankees. I love watching baseball. But to me, the way the writers treat it, and the way they treat themselves as a sport, they're killing their own sport. So for the players, I get why they want to get paid up front, because this may not be around for much longer. You're not getting new fans, and you're starting to lose your old ones. So baseball just shooting themselves in the foot one more time. And that's basically just the hypocrisy of the MLB, or the Baseball Writers of America Association, and their just the hypocrisy they have there. And then they're basically fuck you to everyone who's a fan of the sport. And that's basically, I mean, just fed up with it. I guess it keeps happening over and over, and I guess we expect it to change, but why? I don't know why. So
the one thing I want to add is the fact that the MLB turned a blind eye to blatant cheating for their World Series championship. A blind eye to the pinnacle of the fucking sport. Said it was no big deal. If you gave me 10 fucking average baseball players and shot them up with steroids for a year, and 10 average baseball players and told them what fucking pitch was coming, I guarantee you the ones that know what pitch is coming are going to hit better than the people juiced. End of story. And they want us to forget that fucking happened. You want to put asterisks next to people's names for possible PED use, but not an asterisk next to that World Series? Go fuck yourself, MLB.
Rook said basically.
All right, Sal.
What do you got, Sal?
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame voting is obviously broken. They need to change it. There needs to be a change. Maybe why not have like ex-players, retired players vote? Why are we relying on journalists and writers? Half of them are probably like 60, 70, 80 years old. Half of them probably. Why are we relying on them? It makes no sense. David Ortiz is a Hall of Famer. First ballot, absolutely not. I was stunned when I saw that he made it and Bonds and Clemens didn't. It's ridiculous. It really is. If I had a vote, I would have voted for Bonds and Clemens. I would have voted for them. I would have voted for A-Rod. Maybe I would have voted for Jeff Kent. But the fact that I'm looking at the results right now, the fact that Billy Wagner, Todd Helton, Andrew Jones, and Gary Sheffield have more votes than A-Rod is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You're going to tell me that Todd Helton, playing for the Colorado Rockies, got more votes than Alex Rodriguez, who played for the New York Yankees. I get obviously the suspicion of steroids and all that, but you can't have Billy Wagner and Todd Helton above Alex Rodriguez. It's absolutely ridiculous. Alex Rodriguez, David Ortiz, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens made baseball more money than half of these guys combined on this ballot, and they're not going to be in the Hall of Fame. Well, David Ortiz is, but Roger Clemens, Bonds, A-Rod, they're not in the Hall of Fame. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They made baseball so much money, but you're not going to put them in the Hall of Fame. How much money did guys like Todd Helton and Billy Wagner make MLB? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's ridiculous.
I will say also,
that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, AJ Brzezinski also got 2 votes. Those 2 voters should be gone. You cannot justify voting AJ Brzezinski into the Hall of Fame. 2 voters done. You should kick that.
I don't know if this is fact or mythos, but I'm pretty sure Billy Wagner broke his right arm so badly skateboarding that he learned to pitch lefty.
Correct.
And he had an amazing career doing it. That alone should get him into the Hall of Fame, that he is not left-handed and put up numbers like that left-handed, because he is not left-handed. He's right-handed, and he broke his arm and changed. Like, just incredible. And again, I just want to clarify. I'm not saying that David Ortiz doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. I know I went hard on the guy. I'm just saying he don't belong there before Jeff Kent, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez, or Manny Ramirez, or Gary Sheffield. He doesn't belong there before any of those guys. He really doesn't. I'm okay with him getting in, but not before those guys get the honor. And again, I said it on Twitter. I get the whole, hey, there's steroid suspicion, but he's involved in that steroid suspicion as well. If you were going to put somebody who had suspicion of steroids in, you picked the worst of all the guys with suspicion hanging over their head.
If you're going to open up the floodgates, you open it up with Barry Bonds. End of story.
Yeah.
I mean,
it would be like if they were
best.
If they were going to put the first black guy into the Hall of Fame and they picked the worst black player ever, like they put Juan Pierre in first before Jackie Robinson. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like it just seems ridiculous. And then just to clarify the A-Rod thing, A-Rod did not get suspended for baseball for failing a drug test. He got suspended for going to Biogenesis and his name being on a piece of paper. He never failed a drug test. His mistake was being honest when Sports Illustrated broke that article. Because if he would have just came out and sued them for libel, he'd have been all right. Because apparently that's what happened with David Ortiz. Didn't even sue anybody. He just said they're lying, and the media was like, "Okay, cool."
Well, they loved him. They believe anything David Ortiz says.
We believe you because this is our fucking city. That's what he said. He's like, "This is the."
Yeah,
he went back to his Boston Marathon speech, and they were like, "Oh, this is that guy." Yeah, he didn't take steroids.
Yeah. But you know what's funny?
Look how fat he is.
Is the just
that's not a steroid body. That's a platano body.
Dude, the total lack of evidence that is just you condemn people on suspicion. I mean, you had Roger Clemens on the stand saying that he didn't do steroids, and if there was even a shred of credible evidence, he would have been brought up for perjury. And there's not.
And then just the last thing to close my thoughts on the whole process is, if they're so hard on cheaters, right? Cheating is bad, right? I can't understand how somebody like Phil Niekro is in the Hall of Fame, because there's literally video of him getting patted down by an umpire, and he pulls out his pockets and a file flips out of his pocket.
That was the biggest file I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, like we literally caught him cheating in a game. Okay, so I don't understand how you could sit there and go, well, he only cheated that one day. Bullshit. You think he learned how to scuff a ball that day? Just that day. Like,
That's
are we
true.
serious right now?
Yeah.
Like, who do you think I am, a gullah bull or even a gullah calf? Like,
It's funny with pitchers how it's almost like part of the game. How if you can get away with it, do it. If you can load up the ball, do it. It's not cheating unless you get caught. You know what I mean? It's almost
in your nose. Get that going.
Get the snot going. I mean, but it's pretty much accepted as pitchers will try to get away with shit. At least back then, not as much today, because listen, everything is in HD. I mean, what's his name that tried to get away with the pine tar on his neck?
Michael Pineda.
Pineda.
No, I'm just black, man. That's my skin color. It's like, nah, dude, try again.
No one's that black. Maybe Rondell White.
But it's almost like there's levels of cheating that are accepted, but others that are just like, oh, absolutely not. You can't do that. And again, you're accepting pretty much cheating your way to a World Series victory, but taking any sort of PEDs is I forget who it was. Years ago when creatine first hit the market as the big pre-workout workout supplement. And if you took too much, you'd pop hot as a banned substance, and somebody got suspended.
I want to say it was Mark McGuire.
I don't know if it was Mark McGuire.
And he said it was creatine, and really it was androstenedione. It was andro.
No, but somebody. I feel like it
was it Palmero?
No, it wasn't Palmero. It was somebody that you wouldn't consider a steroid guy, and he said that he was taking over-the-counter GNC supplements, and it was creatine and stuff like that, and. And there was a whole thing about how it could make
C4 used to make you pop hot for amphetamine.
I still take C4, really?
Oh no, they changed the formula. If you read this, if you look at an old can of C4, if you look at the old can of C4, it says will make you pop hot for amphetamine on the old can. Because when I was a young soldier, they had it up in all the buildings like, do not drink this stuff. You will fail your drug test, and there is no defense. And they took the label and they flattened it out and they blew it up big. And they were like, if you buy this at the exchange and you fail a drug test, you'll be kicked out for doing amphetamine.
Well, I know that
our viewer Doc says that, personally speaking, for him, it's all or nothing on steroid guys. Which
absolutely,
I agree.
That's great. I think that's where we all stand right now. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc. We appreciate the watch again, the viewing. He came talk to us last time when it came to we did Hall of Fame discussion as well. So shout out Doc, good guy. But yeah, I agree with him. All or nothing. You're gonna put one in, put them all in, or no one in. And that's where I was going with my point with the hypocrisy of it. It's either all or nothing. If you're against it across the board, good for you. I'm fine with that. But if you're gonna be, I'm gonna pick which PED guys I like and put them in, that's where the problem comes in. So
by the way, Jeff Kent is Mr. 3000, but in like real life. Yeah, where he's a total jerk, and they're just like, any reason to keep him out. But I think we're done talking about baseball. I'm done with it at least. Anybody?